This Sunday's North London derby at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is going to be one of Spurs' hardest games in the last 5 or 6 years at least. In fact, I'd say this will be the hardest game against Arsenal that we have faced, maybe in well over a decade, maybe even going back to their Invincibles side. They are completely ramped up for this, and I think the thing that Tottenham have to their advantage that they have to try and use is the crowd. It's Thursday today. I'm having to film this before Manchester City go to Brighton tonight, which may well change things, but it's just after Liverpool have lost 2-0 away to Everton last night. And I think the way that the Goodison Park fans were in that game, they really made themselves a 12th man. They made it horrible for Liverpool. They got into every single challenge. They supported their team through thick and thin. Every mistake they cheered the same way they cheered an incredible tackle. And I personally, I'll go into this more later in the episode, but I personally think Ange Postecoglou will set us up to play how we usually play and to try and out-football Arsenal. And I don't think we're going to be able to do that. So I think what we're going to have to do as a fan base in the stadium is get those players so pumped in the same way we did against Chelsea at home, I'm afraid. I know we lost 2 men to red cards that night and arguably we were overly motivated, but we need that again, and we need to just hope that when we get behind the players, they don't take it too far like Romero did that night, and they stay on the pitch. But we can be that 12th man, and if we are that 12th man, we can end Arsenal's title challenge. This is the Spurred On podcast. This is a match preview to the Tottenham Hotspur versus Arsenal game this weekend. Please do give this video a like and press subscribe if you're not already. Also, do go over to the podcast platform, Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Give me a follow or subscribe there. So, let's get into it. As always with my match previews, I like to go into the results of our opposition where they are playing this game. So, as it's at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, they're coming away. I'm going to talk to you about Arsenal's away results. And if you're a Spurs fan like me, it does not make for good reading. To be honest, they've been unbelievably impressive. I don't like to say it, but Mikel Arteta has clearly said to them, especially after last season when they didn't quite make it over the line, he said to them, you cannot be losing games. With the juggernaut that is Manchester City, you basically need to win every game. And away from home over the last 7 or 8 fixtures, they've pretty much done that, and incredibly impressively. So their last game last week, 2-0 at Wolves. Before that, they won 3-0 at Brighton. Before that, they got that draw 0-0 at Man City. Now, a lot of people were laughing at Arsenal after that result because they basically just went there and shut up shop. They thought it was more important not to lose than to try to win. And the way it looks now, I know, like I said, this is before Man City's game at Brighton, and if Man City win every game, they do win the league, but Arsenal are piling the pressure on, so that looks like a decent draw at the Etihad now. Before that, they won 6-0 at Sheffield United. Before that, they won 5-0 at Burnley. Before that, they won 6-0 again at West Ham. Prior to that game, they won 2-1 at Forest, a tight one. And finally, before that Forest game is when you can go back to the last defeat, 2-1 at Fulham. Well, we know that Fulham are up for it at Craven Cottage when they play the big teams. They turned us over 3-0, so no huge angst at Arsenal for losing 2-1 at Fulham. Let's talk a little bit about the reverse fixture at the Emirates earlier this season. It was slap bang in the middle of that good run of first 10 games for Ange Postecoglou, where we won 8 and draw 2. We drew 2-2 at the Emirates. It was an open game, to say the least. The first goal came from Saka. He got a lot of joy, Bukayo Saka, down the right early on against Udogie before Udogie really got stuck into him and had the rest of the game. But early on, he got a lot of joy. He got a cross in early, actually, that Jesus stuck towards the top far corner, and Vicario made an unbelievable save. But it was in that first half where Saka cut in on Udogie, had a left foot shot, and Romero, in trying to block it, waved his leg out, hit his knee, and went in the in the near corner. So that was 1-0 to Arsenal. And of course, if you remember, Saka then mimicked James Maddison's darts celebration. I don't think that really helped them on the day, because that seemed to get Madders playing to his full potential, his full genius, if you like. And I'm hopeful that this motivator of this being such a huge game for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, the North London derby, but an opportunity to stop our biggest rivals from winning the league. I'm hoping that will bring Maddison up past his form that's not been as good since his injury, And I hope he gets as pumped as he did when he saw Saka mimic his celebration when Arsenal went 1-0 up. As a result of that, that's why I think he then was responsible, James Maddison, for our equaliser. But before I go into that, important not to forget, though, just after Arsenal went 1-0 up, Madders came to get the ball off Vicario just around his 18-yard box, put his foot on the ball, and he got pickpocketed by Gabriel Jesus, who, in classic Gabriel Jesus style this season so far anyway, he blazed it over the bar. It was a huge chance for Arsenal to go 2-0 up, which would have been a nightmare. But just after, Madders made amends for it by jinking down the left-hand side, past Saka to the byline, cut it back for Sonny, who made a beautiful run towards the front post and just opened up his body, right foot into the far corner. 1-1, limbs in the Spurs away end. Just after that, Raya had to make an important save from Brennan Johnson, who interestingly started on the left in this game. I'll give you my predicted team later on in this episode, but it would not surprise me if Brennan Johnson starts on the left in this game as well. Let me know in the comments who you think should start in that front three, because obviously they've not all been on great form. I think Johnson actually arguably has been on the best form, and that's why I think he might start on the left. But that was a good chance that they had there. In fact, I think that chance for Brennan Johnson was just before Sonny's equaliser from Madders' brilliance in the byline. Then into the second half, and we gave away a penalty. A point-blank shot hit Romero's arm about here, which they deemed to be high. I would deem it to be by his body. And in fact, Gary Neville on the co-commentary said he thought it shouldn't have been a penalty. And then Saka took the penalty, hit it down the middle, 2-1 Arsenal. But straight away, Jorginho sat on the ball in midfield. Basically, Madders pickpocketed him and then found Sonny for a first-time finish, 2-2. And that was the final score of that game. For me, the reason Arsenal are challenging this season and the changes they've made have been in their defence. They knew they scored enough goals, so they had to tighten it up. The opposite of Spurs, to be honest, this season. However, Spurs are at the beginning of their project, and Postecoglou is trying to drum in an entire mentality to the squad, the team, and the club. So we're not quite as far along. Arteta's had 5 years, that's 10 transfer windows, to get the squad exactly how he wants it. And he knew that in the summer, they needed to tighten up at the back. So they obviously spent 100 million on Declan Rice to sit in front of the back, and then they controversially got in David Raya on loan with a guaranteed option to buy if he played so many games. Those two have been key in the amount of clean sheets they've kept and in their defensive solidity and in how brilliant they are at attacking set pieces. And another key to it has been Saliba staying fit. I hate to say it, but he is a brilliant, brilliant centre-half. In fact, it's madness how long they sent him out on loan for. You could argue, I guess, if you're an Arsenal fan, it worked and he's come back the fully finished article. But what a player. They could have done with him before. I really think that. I mentioned set pieces there. Arsenal are the highest scorers of set pieces in the Premier League. Tottenham Hotspur, as we know, as I won't stop banging on about, concede so many goals from set pieces. And even when we're not conceding goals from free kicks or corners, we are not winning the first ball in those challenges. We're not the biggest or strongest of teams. And as we know, Van de Ven, who has so many brilliant attributes, being a great header of the ball and winner of first balls from set pieces is not one of them. So we really need Romero to step up here and try and win as many of those first balls as we possibly can. As I mentioned at the top, I don't think Andy's going to change his game to do what Everton did yesterday in terms of getting long balls in, huge big tackles, channel balls and making it a scrap. So the fans have to really get into this. And I also think it's vital that our big players, our captain and our vice-captains, have to step up. I'm talking obviously about Sonny, Madders, Christian Romero, and I think Vicario is going to have a lot to do tomorrow on the break as well. So these are the players I think are going to be vital for Tottenham Hotspur. Can we be clinical when we make chances against Arsenal? And they may well be few and far between. Can we be clinical? We're going to need to if we're going to get anything out of this game. So here's my predicted team for Spurs on Sunday. Vicario, Pedro Porro at right back, all being well, but apparently he's trained this week, so that's good news. I think Ben Davies will come in at left back for Destiny Udogie, who of course is now out for the season, sadly. Romero and Van de Ven. I would like to see Pierre Højbjerg start in front of the back four to give us a bit more solidity, but I think he'll go with Bissouma. I think Pat Matassar will come back in central midfield. We'll need his legs. James Maddison. Then I think Brennan Johnson will start on the left, as I talked about earlier. I think Decky Kulusevski will come back in on the right because I think we need someone up there who can hold the ball up. Sonny and Johnson and Werner are not great at that in terms of holding the ball up with the back to goal. We're going to need to keep some pressure on Arsenal when we do get the ball. In that final third. So I think it'll be Decky Kulusevski on the right. In terms of score prediction, I'll be honest, guys, I'm a bit fearful about this. I don't know why. I'm more fearful as we get closer to the game. My instinct to tell you is put on an emotional cover bet. If you are a gambler, I used to be, I'm not anymore. If you put some money on Arsenal to win this game, then you're okay either way. I know a lot of people think this is sacrilege and in some way it jinxes it. Fine. If that's how you feel, that's fine. But I've just got a bad feeling like this. Arsenal are in an unbelievable vein of form. I'm hopeful that even if they do win every game, it won't be enough because Man City will. Let's face it, it'll be very difficult because Man City come to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium just before the final game of the season, the penultimate game of the season. And if Arsenal and Man City have won all their games by then, we're going to have to cower over, I'm afraid. We cannot be the ones to win Arsenal the title. But let's be more positive about it. I want to be more positive and say we can knock Arsenal out of this title race, hopefully, this Sunday. Let's be the 12th man and do that. But like I said, I'm fearful. I think Arsenal might win this 3-1 and it'll be a disappointing game. But I hope by saying that I'm completely wrong. Let me know in the comments what you think the score will be. Thank you so much for watching and listening. As always, please do drop it a like and go over to the podcast platforms. Give me a follow or a subscribe and a rating there. And also, if you want to be a Spurred On Pro or Patreon member, all the details are in the description box. Only £1 a month. It really helps support me to make this daily content for you. From a very nervous me in the run-up to the North London derby, come on you Spurs.